Mirëdita gjitha, faleminderit shumë që sot ju jeni përgjigjë ftesës sonë. Kjo është forumi i dytë i kësaj vjeshte, brenda nëntorit pra, ku kemi thënë që po ftojmë njerëz të cilët edhe kanë një interes të shtuar për zhvillimin në Kosovë dhe jo vetëm. Për atë se si, ndoshta prej atë se si po qeverisimi ne, është me interes me pas se në fakt qyshe dhe vendet anëtare të zonë në këtë rast të BE-s na shohin ne. Forumi kësaj radhe do thotë i sotëm ka të bëjë shumë me tri çështje për cilat ne thuajse në përditshmëri merremi, pra ka të bëjë me sundimin e rëndë të ligjit, ka të bëjë me prioritetet ekonomike, zhvillimin ekonomik dhe pa diskutim ka të bëjë edhe me dialogun ose marrëdhëniet e Kosovës me BE-n dhe me shtetet fëqinje. Ne sot kemi nderin që të kemi ambasadorin Bosch, ambasadorin holandez në Kosovë, i cili është goxha shumë i angazhuar dhe thuajse në përditshmëri merret me zhvillimet në Kosovë. Ambasadori do të flasë për tri çështje për cilat ne kemi renditur. Ndoshta do t'i ndrojmë renditjet për pak për ata që kanë marrë ftesën. Ka të bëjë me sundimin e rëndë të ligjit. Kemi një paka shumë një qeverinë tentativë dhe ndoshta një të kaluar ku kemi parë se si jemi portretizuar nga raportet të ndryshme kombëtare dhe ndërkombëtare në fakt, për atë se si kemi këtë segment të rëndësishëm të shtetë ndërtimit. Kemi pikën e dytë pra, është çështja e prioriteteve ekonomike ose zhvillimit ekonomik. Siç e dim, ne jemi një vend i cili në këtë rajon, i cili parametrat ekonomik na qesin goxha shumë keq, thuajse në të gjitha sektorët. Ka edhe shqetësime edhe për raporte ndërkombëtare për atë se çfarë ambienti të ekonomik kemi ose çfarë ambienti po krijon politikë bërja për investime nga jashtë. Sigurisht që ambasadori do të ketë edhe një vlerësim të këtij lloji dhe pa diskutim kemi edhe dialogun që Kosova ka marrë, do të thotë si zotim prej vitit 2011 këtej, do të thotë prej vitit kur kemi kaluar nga një fazë dialogut teknik në atë politik, që është menaxhuar ose facilituar nga Bashkimi Evropian, që është mbajtur mes Republikës Kosovës dhe Republikës Serbisë. Ne kemi një sër marrëveshjes të arritura, një raport i para disa jave ose ndoshta para 2 jave i Birnit thotë që vetëm 4 nga 17 ose 19 marrëveshje janë zbatuar, pra kemi vetëm 4 marrëveshje të zbatuar prej dialogut që ne kemi marrë si obligim qeveria e Kosovës, institucionet e Kosovës në raport me Brukselin. Pra do të flasim në pikën e tretë për dialogun Kosovë-Serbi në Bruksel dhe pa diskutim, pas një prezantimi të këto 3 temave veç e veç, neve do të kemi edhe mundësi që të kemi një bashkëbisedim mes jush dhe ambasadorit, i cili do të jetë i hapur për pyetjet që ju do të shtrani. Ambasador, faleminderit që ke pranuar sot jesh në forumin tonë. Ndoshta e dini pak a shumë edhe formatin, është mund të keni një koment dhe ndonjë pyetje, po jo me pas zgjatje të madhe të komentit, pra mos të ketë më shumë se 2-3 minuta më së shumti. Ne do të fokusohemi që brenda 45 minutësh të tashëm ti përmbledhëm të 3 këto çështje. Faleminderit edhe një herë që jeni sot prezent. Ambasador, fjala është juaja.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will speak in English. Unfortunately, after all these years here, my Albanian is still not very good. I know that I'm the second one here. My American colleague was here, and she managed, although she's here much shorter than I am, she managed to learn the language much better. But some people have big talents for languages, maybe I don't have. At least not for Albanian, as it's a very difficult language. So I'm very sorry for that, but anyway, I can say Miridita, that I can say. Yes, I'm very happy to be here, and it's a big honor to be asked as the first ambassador of an EU country. I do not represent the EU, I represent Netherlands, but of course, the policies cannot differ very much, I would think, although sometimes within the EU we also have some different opinions, but at least here I will not go against any EU line, because the EU line is
If you want to remove that for the pictures.
Ah, for the pictures. Ah, okay. Oh yeah, I don't need to have these things on when I'm talking. When the questions come, I have to do. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the introduction. Yeah. To talk about, normally speaking, you will have a new government within 10 days, which is of course good, because a country without a government, you cannot do a lot of things. Actually, I've been saying all the time, it was much more important to get a parliament, because the parliament is even more important than the government. So it is a big pity that it took such a long time before one could have formed a government, parliament, because so many things are waiting for a parliament to be decided, because a lot of the institutions are actually now not functioning, because the mandates of many people have run out, and those institutions are very important in order to be able to run the country efficiently. Anyway, that is now past time. There's no use to, maybe later you can ask questions about these things, but for the time being we don't have to look back. There will be a new government, I guess, and it's a lot of tasks for this government. The new coalition will have a lot to do, and I would say, it was already introduced here, I would say the main priority for this country is to improve the rule of law. The rule of law, it means a functioning judicial system, and with the functional judicial system you can also fight corruption, because corruption still here is one of the main problems, and I will come back later to this also related to the economic developments. But let's first continue with the rule of law. There are now, fortunately, there are new developments, nothing to do with the new government, but it's an ongoing process. At this moment, new prosecutors and new judges are being hired, come into function, because one of the big problems in this country was there was a chronic lack of prosecutors and judges. Compared to neighboring countries, per capita it was extremely low, which of course has consequences for the rule of law, for a functioning system. So this is being amended now slowly but surely, and that we have to hope that it also comes to this. Which is of course also important, not only that you have a lot of these people, but also that they can be independent. So we have to see that there will be no undue pressure on the judicial system. They should be totally separated from the government. This is also one of the challenges here for this country, and in other words also for the new government. Keep your hands away from the independent institutions, don't interfere, because otherwise there is no trust of the citizens. So this is one of the main things for the new government to work on, to show that they are independent and they are not being pressured by the government to do the things what they want. This is unfortunately a thing that is happening, has been happening not only in your country but in all countries in the region. So I'm not singling this country out as being worse than other countries. Unfortunately, it's too much the case here in this area. Let's say, I will not say the Western Balkans as such, but in the whole area, which is bad, and this is the things that should be improved, and is also extremely important in order to come closer to the EU, because as you know, due to all the developments in Europe, by the rise of, let's say, European skeptical parties, they are skeptical against the EU, but they're also skeptical about enlargement, and it means of course that also they look now even more critical at all the, let's say, possible new members. They will look even more critical, and especially in the field of the corruption. So there is a lot of things to do. So, but still, I can now go to the next thing, because the rule of law, as I said, very important also for the trust of the citizens in the whole system, that people also think when something happens to me, I can have my right. Or there are also women here, women also can have their rights, and not that people say, you're just a woman. Yesterday the OSCE had a conference, no man, it should be a shame for a man to beat his wife. It should be a shame, and it should also be condemned very much. So also there, a functioning rule of law, that women can get their rights. So this is also a very important thing. Now, but as I said, I also said in the introduction, I also want to linger a little bit on the economy. In a country where you have an unemployment, we don't know exactly, but let's say they claim around 43%. I don't know, I do not believe it's true, but because I think there's a lot of informal work, so I think it's much less, but even so, but officially it's 43%. Of course, economy is very important to develop a system that people see a future. If I saw this in the newspaper yesterday that, what was it, 300 people from Faroes wanted to go away from here because they don't see any future anymore. It's a very sad thing. I mean, you can cry about it. What is this now? I mean, people are not seeing any future here. People should be able to see a future. That means the government, the new government, should work on developing jobs to develop possibilities to do something here. And now I'm going to say a criticism, or maybe not a criticism, but at least an advice to the government. Please do not try to get your budget out of, the main budget out of import duties. Do not import so much. Please produce here. Because this is a big problem in this country. For instance, this country used to be a very big milk producing country. What do? You import 90% of your milk. I don't know if you read my Twitters. Tell me what is my Twitter address? Tell me. Bosch _RE. Anyway, so last week I made a Twitter because we were in Pea and 35 Dutch cows were imported, pregnant cows, so it means de facto we imported 70 cows. The Dutch cows produce double from what in milk, double from what the present cows are here, if they are treated properly and get the proper food. Anyway, so this is already a first step. If you do such things, if you get this off the road, if you get, let's say, the right cows and you treat them properly, you can produce more milk, you don't need to import. Of course, the government will get less import duties, but if the companies pay their taxes, so that's also a good, important thing, see that you have a proper tax collection system, and not that the friends of you don't have to pay, something like that. No, everybody has to pay their taxes, then also the budget will be filled, and you create jobs. So this is so important that people see we have a future, there is something to do. The country has a big opportunity, especially in the agricultural field. The government has said that they will have a big fund. I mean, not the government, the PDK has said there will be a big fund for agriculture. Let's hope it will materialize, because this is indeed what you need. Do a lot in this field, because the possibilities are there, and it's also labor intensive, so you can also have a lot of people working in this. And also don't see, because I talk here to city people, don't say that working on the countryside on a farm is bad. No, it's fine, it's nice, it's romantic, it's perfect. And so Netherlands is a very small country. Of course, it's bigger than your country because you are really very small, but even so, we are rather small. But we are, after the United States, the biggest exporter of agricultural products. So even in a small country, you can do a lot if you do it in an efficient and in a proper way. So, okay. So and now I come again to this rule of law. We have, you need also, if you want to develop your economy, you need also for that, you need a proper rule of law system, because we have had this, I mean, we had last week, we had a conference also for people at companies here who want to do business with Dutch businesses, and one of the local ladies, she said, I had a cooperation with a Dutch company. They wanted to come here, they looked around, they make some investigation, and they said, no, we are not going to do it because we don't trust the legal system here. But again, this is of course horrible. I mean, people are interested, but they don't trust the system. So do something that people trust the system that you have. So that's why it's so extremely important. Another thing which is very important is that, because it depends, of course, what kind of companies there are, but if you have a company who really wants to invest in a company to produce something, which there are many from Netherlands also, they come, what they need is a reliable electricity system or energy system, that they can rely that they have both water and electricity. This is also not guaranteed here, and it's not guaranteed. Why? Because priorities of the government so far have been wrong. The KEK, you know, you had this accident at Kosovo A. fortunately, thanks to the very good, let's say, an entrepreneurship of KEK, they have been able to repair this old installations again. So as of the mid-December, everything is repaired. Both A and B are repaired. So we are back to the normal situation. But still, they have to do it with their own money, which is very bad. There's no money from the government at all. And the last increase for electricity prices, not 1 cent has gone to KEK, which is of course also very strange because they have to do the work, they had to do the repairs, and the money doesn't go to them, it goes to other players in this field. So also this is a thing that you should be careful. I mean, the government should really see that you have a functioning system. Of course you can say it's a very old one, yeah, but this is what you have. This is what you have to repair for the time being. As long as you don't have this Kosovo Sea, then this is what you have, and you have to continue, because you cannot afford to start importing even more when you have it yourself. Because also this is what is happening now. It seems that things are being imported, which according to me is not really necessary. So not that you don't need to import, but you import maybe more than necessary because you can produce more in the present two centrals. But you need a little bit more money to make them better again, and also it's also in the interest of all of you to make them safe as well, because it's of course dangerous. So again, to summarize this is that rule of law and economy, actually they're related. They're related, and these things are the main priority for this country. Okay, then we come to the other political issue, which I'm supposed to talk about. This is about the dialogue with Serbia. We were there yesterday, last week, when Bern presented this big deal. It is indeed worrisome that so many things have not been finalized yet, but that is of course also due to the fact that there has not been a government here. There were also elections in Serbia, and there was all kind of excuses why things were not being done. But now this time is over. Now things has to be done. And as you might know, Serbia has become a candidate country, and Chapter 35 is the chapter that deals with Kosovo. And the condition is, before we do anything with you, really have to do something on this Chapter 35, which is improvement of the relations with Kosovo. And this is being pressed very much, especially by the Germans. And this means that the Serbs are moving now slowly. This, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, they finally agreed with the recognition of the diplomas. So it's the first step. The IBM, in the north, the buildings will be now finally, the final buildings will finally be constructed with money of the EU, by the way. And by the way, 5% of all the EU money comes from Netherlands. So from every 100 we pay 5. So we are a big donor, not as big as Germany, of course, but we are very big. And so it's also our money. So we are at least progressing also on that field, but even other fields we still have to do a lot. I mean, the decommissioning of the parallel structures in the north is not done properly yet. There's a lot still to be done, but still, it is an ongoing process. And in this case, the EU as such, let's say as I said, Chapter 35 plays a very good role in order that really something is going to happen. I think, and Mr. Chairman, I think I have touched more or less upon all things, and maybe we should open the floor if there are any questions. Okay. If you agree. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now I have to put on this thing. But you can of course also ask in English, but it's up to you.
Falenderojmë ambasadorin për këto 3 çështje. Besoj që mund kemi interesim për pyetje. Po.
Në Vimagjoni, Radio Dugagjini. Nuk folit shumë për gjykatën speciale. Para do kohë përmendet që ajo do të ketë seli në Holandë. Nga i sqarim shtesë për kësaj?
I hear what you say. First of all, I don't know a country called Holland. There's a country called Netherlands. There's no country called Holland, by the way. No, I mean, I don't know, I didn't mention it because I was not asked to mention it, but we don't know if it will be in Holland, or I should say, or in Netherlands. There is discussion going on if it will be there, but it's all in a very preliminary phase. So it's, there are discussions, but it has not been decided. Nothing has been decided. I mean, it's up first to the EU, because it's an EU, actually an EULEX project, and they are talking with us and we are talking with them, but nothing has been decided. So it's not much I can say at this very moment. But I mean, you know what is written in the press. I don't know much more than that. I know that they are talking, but nothing has been decided. And it also depends on, because everything has also been delayed because there was no government here. So, and of course the government here has to play with Brussels, and Brussels have to talk with us. But as I said, it's in such a preliminary phase. You know, they have asked us, but we have, it's not decided. It's an ongoing process, so we don't know. I'm very sorry that I have to make such a vague answer, but that is more or less it. So, and indeed, just to go back to this Holland-Netherlands, if it comes in The Hague, then indeed it's Holland, because The Hague is South Holland. But I mean, where I'm from the Maastricht area, which also people know, that is not Holland, that is Limburg. So I'm not from Holland, I'm from Limburg. And Netherlands, eh? Both is Netherlands. Eh? Sorry.
Mr. Kamp?
Valmira Saraci, KTV. Zoti ambasador, e shihni ju koalicionin PDK-LDK si më i miri që mund të zgjidhë ndoshta gjitha këto çështje që i përmendët ju, sepse e dim PDK-ja ka qenë që 2 mandate dhe pikërisht ndoshta kur folet për gjykatat, për ndërhyrjen në gjykata, e di mirë të gjithë ndoshta publikisht se kush e bëri ndërhyrjen. Mund të ndodhë me qeveri, me PDK-n sërish në qeveri që të jenë larg duart nga sistemi gjyqësor?
Well, of course, I'm here as an ambassador. I'm not here as a political observer, so I'm not a journalist, so I will not comment on this. But what I can say, of course, nobody can deny that the PDK got most of the votes. Eh? So, of course, you have to respect what people are voting. If maybe somebody doesn't agree that they should have so many votes, but they got the vote, so then of course they also have a right to be in the government. I mean, not necessarily, because there was of course also an alternative, but the alternative didn't function. They didn't get the act together. So then of course there is only another solution, and this is where the biggest party is also involved, because with the biggest party is of course easiest to form a government. And this is how it is. And we hope of course that the next government will really be very serious with the reforms. I didn't say they were not serious before, because that were your words, but still that they will even be more serious, because there's a lot of work to be done. And as I said, according to me, next to this rule of law, really don't import everything. Please see that you produce things here, and don't import just to import to get tariffs from the import duties, because the import, it's really ridiculous what is being imported. Totally unnecessary. You can do things yourself. And this cost the country dearly.
Okay.
Mimoza Kshiku nga Birni. Kam një pyetje rreth zhvillimeve të fundit në Universitetin e Prishtinës, nëse ambasadori është në dieni. Sot organizatat e dalja nga lufta kanë paralajmëruar një protestë para rektoratit për respektimin e memorandumit bashkëpunimit mes tyre dhe ish rektorit në atë kohë Mujrugova. Siç e dini, rektori aktual nuk po pranon se zbatohet ky memorandum për pranimin e studentëve të dalja nga këto kategori, pa ju nështruar rregullave. Një mendim rreth kësaj, se çfarë mendon ambasadori për këtë çështje?
First of all, in this case, I have to become, let's say, a representative of the EU, because personally, we are not so much involved in education, unfortunately, as Netherlands, so I'm not an expert on it. But yesterday we had the meeting of the EU, and in the meeting we decided we support the rector. So this is what that is our view. We support the rector. So then I don't need to say much more, but it's quite clear. And of course, for education, of course, you have to keep the standards, and you cannot just adjust it for things. I mean, you have standards in university. If you want to be part of Europe, a university has to have standards, and you cannot lower the standards for political reasons.
Dragana Djukic, too. Colleague has already asked similar question, but I wanted just to repeat about the court. I mean, you don't know yet, but we want to hear, is it a priority like 35 chapter is for Serbia? And one more thing, when you're saying don't import that much, produce, it's completely understandable. People here not produce enough, but I want just to ask. I mean, some movements, some parties saying that like block some products, like don't buy products from Serbia. Is it the same or not? Thank you.
No, I'm not saying that you have to block products from Serbia. That I didn't say. No, what I'm saying is that too many things are being imported which you could also produce here. I gave milk as an example, but there are more things. You import, for instance, just say you know the tiles that you have in the street. You import them from Greece. They are made in Greece from the ashes of their electricity centrals. What do you do here with the ashes? You throw away the ashes. They are not being used. You can make tiles from it. You can use them to put the earth for the roads, not the top road, but the lower layers of the earth. And now what you do, you get stones from a river and you destroy the river to get the stones out to make these things. Well, actually, you could use the ash. In Netherlands, the ash of the coal is being used for 100%, and here you throw it away. And then you start importing stuff which are imported. It's ridiculous. So, of course, you cannot change this immediately, but you could put a factory there to make tiles instead of, because it was one of the Dutch projects, because before, together with the World Bank, before, you know, there was a big ash heap, and when the wind came, all the ash came over the town, which of course was very bad. So what we first did, we put trees on it and grass in order that it didn't come on. Now, the next phase was that instead of putting it there, we put it back into the soil with water, with fluids. We put it back in. But again, it's a pity to put it back, because this is, as I said, in Netherlands, ash is money. You don't throw money away. This is another example, but I mean, I can give you many more. So, but I mean, of course, it's not from tomorrow, from today till tomorrow. You need to put a factory there. But again, the factory will create work. Again, this is another example that I know of, but for sure there are many other examples of things that you can produce here. Because, you know, you have an enormous trade deficit. I mean, I think 90% is being imported and 10% is being exported. So it's not only with Serbia, but in general. So it has nothing to do with nationalism. It has to do, see that you do things here which you can do. And especially since actually, I mean, that's of course not so nice, but even so for you, the wages here are very low. So actually you have an enormous competitive advantage over other countries. So why is it not being used?
Nëse ka një pyetje? Doja me vazhdu edhe me një çështje, cilat ndërlidhet do thotë me çështjen e tretë, për cilët ne diskutuam në fakt për dialogun. Ka një ambasador, ka një perceptim në opinionin publik në Kosovë, të paktën që procesi i dialogut, ai teknik i vitit 2011 dhe pastaj dhe në niveli politik që rezultoi me marrëveshjen e 19 prillit, i ka dhënë një shans shumë të mirë Serbisë për të marrë statusin e vendit kandidat për BE, ndërkohë që qytetarët e Kosovës, ndoshta jo me shumicë, por kanë një perceptim që BE-ja ka një vendet anëtare, se BE-ja vetë ka një standard të dyfisht në raport me këto dy shtete veçeveç. Ta zëmë ne kemi një problem ose edhe një permitim politik, publik të kësaj qeverie që është aktualisht për liberalizim të viza, ndërkohë që ne nuk e kemi me gjast, nuk e kemi as në hartë me një afat shumë të shkurt cili do të ishte shpjegimi juaj për këtë perceptim publik që Serbia ka fitu shumë nga dialogu, ndërkohë që Kosova bëhet se fare përpos një marrëveshje të draftuar, e cila po pritet ndoshta ratifikimi i MSA-s, mirë po nuk është që ka fituar atë shumë ose kujdes të shtuar të Brukselit përkundër faktit që Kosova ka dhënë një zotim jashtëzakonisht të madh në dialogun në Brukselit. Pra dhe madje i dim që kemi pasur edhe kundërshti të mëdha të marrëveshjes së 19 prillit. Megjithatë, institucionet e Kosovës e kanë marrë atë vendim, është votuar në Kuvendin e Kosovës me shumicë të vota, ndërkohë që nuk ka një kthim prapa i një kujdesi më të madh të BE-s. Pra, perceptimi juaj.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. Of course, Serbia gained from it, but still, you gained also, because now, as I told you before, with this chapter 35, the pressure is very high on them. Before, they didn't want to talk at all to you. Now they have talked to you. Now, there is there's at least a dialogue going on, which is of course a lot better than anything whatever was before. So, and I guess in the long run, also what people say, in the long run, it should of course lead to a recognition of your country by them. That is what we consider then a natural process. We don't want to push them too hard, but I mean in the long run, this is of course the natural outcome of this. So you do gain a lot. As far as that you didn't get anything, still you have an SAA which is coming into force probably sometime in the beginning of next year, supported by the Netherlands. But as you know, we have of course an unfortunate situation that there are 5 EU countries that doesn't want yet to recognize Kosovo. It's a problem. It's a problem for us also, but I mean we as the recognizers, we are telling all the time, do recognize, but I mean yeah. This is of course a problem. This is a problem for your country, and that's why of course the progress is not as much as it could have been, and as you said, you deserve it, but still, yeah, you do not get what you deserve, but not do for that reason, but that is the reason that 5 countries do not recognize. As far as the visa liberalization is concerned, the ball is in your court. There's a lot of conditions clearly written which has to be fulfilled. And that is, as you didn't have a government for such an enormous time, of course nothing has happened in the meantime. So these things have to be taken up also urgently to see that you do fulfill, and that has also to do again with rule of law issues among others. But again, that makes people of course weary. What happened indeed in Ferazai, also people get afraid. What is this? If people really start coming en masse to us, which of course people don't want. I mean, that makes it also a little bit, yeah. I mean, this is not the government point of view, but this is like with the people. The people in the countries, the government, of course, they also have to be re-voted. They also have to look at the fears of people. And if you have this kind of things, fortunately for you, it didn't come much in the Western press, as far as I know. But these signals are not good signals. That all of a sudden. No, it's not mass, but more or less mass migration, it doesn't give a good sign. They say, oh, these people all want to come to us. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but I mean, this is not that the government is afraid of it, but if people are afraid of it, and it's being used by the, let's say, the anti-European parties, of course, the government has to take care of this, because they also need the votes later. So it's a sensitive issue. But even so, but you have gained, and you will gain more, but again, it depends also on these other things which at least we, the recognizers, can hardly influence, except for telling them to recognize. As you know, the European Parliament plays also a very good role by telling the others to vote, but to vote in favor for, to recognize Kosovo. There are many. Mrs. Lunacek plays a very, very positive role also for your country in this. But in general, it's being supported by the vast majority of the European Parliament. But they have no say, because in our system, each country in this field is, of course, independent. There is no joint EU policy on this. It's not that the majority can say you have to do it now, because this is for countries, this is their own yeah, it's their own decision. And all what we do is to try to tell them to do it, but much more we cannot do. But this is a big problem.
Ka dikush në çështje? Në funksion të kësaj, po besoj që ka një shpjegim edhe për marrëveshjen e MSA-s. Siç dihet, ka një agjendë të paktën të njerëzve që janë në rangët të dytë dhe të treta në institucionet e Kosovës, që MSA-ja do duhet të fillonte pak a shumë nga qershori vitit që vjen ratifikimi dhe ndoshta edhe në shtator fillimi i zbatimit. Si e shihni komplet MSA-n, sepse marrëveshjen, sepse ka po ashtu një shqetësim që marrëveshja si e tillë nuk është ajo sikur është bërë në vendet e rajonit, dhe për më shumë nuk dihet ende se si do të ratifikohet, çfarë vendime do të merr Këshilli Evropian, ose çfarë vendime do të merr Parlamenti Evropian, ku do duhet të shkonte pak a shumë edhe këtë shqetësim, sepse ka një perceptim që MSA-ja nuk është ajo që është tazanisht nënshkruar me Maqedoninë ose me Shqipërinë ose me Serbinë në vendet e rajonit.
Yeah, the SAA is indeed a little bit different because of the reason what I told you before. The Spanish Parliament would not ratify it, so we have made now a system that we don't have to go to the parliaments; it's the countries themselves who has to say yes. So they can avoid the parliament, and that's why it's a little bit different from with the other countries in order to avoid this problem. Of course, but it still has to be approved by the government, so not by the parliament. But parliaments, so maybe we can indeed still make this pressure on these countries to do it anyway, because the parliaments are normally more populist, which is of course good because they represent the people. So they are more populist than the government. The government has to come in agreements with other countries to compromises. So they are normally more willing to compromise. And as long as this is not being used enormously by the parliament, but again, there is no role for the parliaments. European Parliament yet, but that should be no problem. As I said, they are very much in favor, and you only need majority. You don't need unanimity. But if it would be the parliaments, let's say like what they had with Albania, then every parliament has to do it, and then every parliament de facto has a veto, and that's why we avoided that system. So that's why it is indeed different from the other SEAs.
Nëse nuk ka edhe ndonjë pyetje tjetër, nëse nuk ka ndonjë pyetje tjetër, po shtroj edhe pyetjen e fundit, ndoshta pak a shumë vizionare, atë se si ambasadori e sheh raportin Kosovë Serbi ta zënë në 3 ose 5 vitet e ardhshme, duke përfshirë edhe një kusht ose pak a shumë e dim që ekziston kapitulli 35 i negocimit që Serbia do ta bëjë me Brukselin, si e sheh në 3 ose 5 vitet e ardhshme raportin Kosovë Serbi. A do të kemi ende vazhdim të negociatave edhe pas 5 vite, apo çështjet mes këtyre dy vendeve do të ishin të përfunduar në kuptimin që edhe nëse nuk do të kishin një ujë reciproke, të paktën nuk do të kishin kontestim reciprok siç edhe ndodh aktualisht.
This is of course an extremely difficult question because it can only be speculation. I can only say what I hope, but you know what I hope, so I don't have to express it. But much more I cannot say because it is not easy. Of course, what happened also with the football match, it was also not very helpful to make the relations much better. So I hope that surely people start understanding each other more, but it depends, of course, also on both what wise politicians on your side are doing and wise politicians there. But if they are all very wise all the time, I do not know. Sometimes one wonders, but what can I say? I mean, I can only hope that it will be better, and I trust that through this thing with the EU, that indeed moderation has to step in, because as I said, we expect, of course, moderation, and we will never accept a country in the EU that has big problems with a neighboring country. It has to be solved. This kind of problems have to be solved before, and then they also know. Because what happened with Cyprus, it was a mistake that was made once, and everybody says these kind of mistakes are not being made ever anymore. To bring a country in with unresolved problems with neighboring countries is not possible. So this is, of course, has to be solved, and that is, of course, yeah, for that country who wants. So it can only be optimistic, because if the desire is indeed big to join, things has to change.
Faleminderit shumë. Kjo ishte ndoshta bashkëbisedimi jon me ambasadorin. Ke kënaqësi që patëm ambasadorin e vendit të parë të Bashkimit Evropian këtu. Shpresojmë që të jemi në takimet tona tashme. Besoj që brenda dhjetorit.
I just want to add something. I was a bit surprised that there's no question about Al-Malama. I'm very surprised, and I only want to add that I know that the people like to make jokes by singing and like to sing, but the jokes are not very funny, because the way to make jokes, you know, Al-Malama got enormous amount. Since that song came out, a lot of hate mails and threats, not from him, because he's trying to be funny. But I mean, it's not funny. I mean, these things you cannot joke about. So she is in a very bad spot now by being threatened, and not just threatened, but really threatened, and that is, of course, very bad. She went to the police to make the complaints about the threats. But again, it's not exactly against him, because he's trying to be funny. But this is not funny. That is the thing. This is a very serious matter. You stir up something which can have very negative consequences. I hope that the singer realizes what he is doing, because this, as I said, this is not fun. Because, I mean, we are working here in this country. This is also one of the things, to give women the same rights as men. And women are equal as men as far as, you know equal, of course, but they are equal in the sense that they are equal rights. And these rights should be accepted, and nobody should say that the women should only be in the kitchen or produce children or whatever. No, women are men, are people, and they have the same right as anybody else. And don't try to take them away by making strange jokes about such things. This is a very serious matter. All what we are doing, especially in Netherlands and other countries from the EU, we are promoting women's rights. We do a lot for women's rights. Women entrepreneurship, last week we had a lot of things about this. Women should be promoted. You see what happened, you know, you have seen also this excellent movie, Three Windows and a Hanging. You see what can happen when you have such a strange attitude towards women. Women have to be treated as anybody else. And really, women stand up for your rights. Please stand up for your rights, because you are worth it. You are worth it. You are worth it. You are worth it. And that's why I wanted to just have said this. Don't let yourself be pushed down, and please stop talking to the singer. Don't make such jokes anymore, because it's very bad.
Ndoshta nuk u hap tema për të mund të kishte pas pyetje. Faleminderit ambasador. Besoj që jemi në takimet tona të ardhshme, do të thotë në diskutimet tona edhe për çështjet të cilat kanë bënë edhe me këto ndjedhjet e urrëties, siç edhe ka ndodhur para disa ditë ndaj Al-Malamës, dhe jo vetëm saj, po edhe zotit Matoshës dhe të tjerë. Faleminderit edhe për prezencën juaj shihemi në forumet tona tashme. Ambasador. Thank you.